what to expect. We are recording this conversation. We are also going to stream it live on YouTube. There's a necessary about 30-second pause between this moment and when this program starts to go on YouTube. So I would just ask folks to bear with us as we do that. And we'll start the program tonight with a short video that does a really good job of kind of covering the basis in terms of what occurred in Arthur's case. I do want to just note that the video was part of the clemency process, and so it will cover time up until about the year 2014, which is when Arthur was granted clemency. So without any further ado, we'll start that video.
Arthur Tyler was born December 14, 1959. He grew up with a large family on the east side of Cleveland, Ohio, in the Huff area of town. In 1983, Arthur was 23 years old. He'd graduated from East Tech High School in June of 1978 and tried to attend college, but while he had the ambition, he did not have the direction. His world, though, was upended one day in March. 30 years ago on March 12, 1983, a little after 5 o'clock p.m., Sander Leach was shot and killed on the east side of Cleveland. Mr. Leach sold fresh fruits and vegetables from his van. He was well known and respected in the community he served. The van was parked outside of a small grocery store called the Meat Market at the corner of East 66th and Zoder Ave in Cleveland, Ohio. Mr. Leach still had cash and food stamps in his pants pocket after he was shot. Property: one key, nail clipper, black wallet with miscellaneous papers, one .38 caliber bullet, glass case, pen, $91 in food stamps, $9.78 in change, and $54 in cash. A couple of days after the murder of Mr. Leach on March 14, 1983, Leroy Head, along with Anthony Gillis, Luther Aldridge, and Jeffrey Gillis, were stopped by the police who were investigating an unrelated homicide. As Detective Speckrick, the investigating officer, later testified, the 18-year-old Head was so noticeably nervous he drew their attention. He became very nervous. He was literally shaking and quivering and standing there. It was a cool day, and he was sweating. When the police asked one of the other men why Head was so nervous, they were told that's because he was the man that we were looking for the killing of the old produce man. The police started questioning Head about the Leach murder. During the questioning, Head asked to speak with his mother, which he did. She left the interview room in tears and saying he did it. Anthony Gillis told the police that on March 12, 1983, after the shooting of Mr. Leach, Tyler and Head were at his apartment. Head admitting to having shot and killed Mr. Leach. Anthony saw Head with a black .38 with a brown grip, but did not see Arthur with a gun. Jeffrey Gillis told the police that he saw Head on March 12, 1983, at around 6 o'clock p.m. Head told Gillis he had shot a person on 66th and had stolen $300 from the person he shot. Head made no mention of Arthur Tyler at all. Contrary to the story provided by Anthony Gillis, Leroy Head signed a full statement on March 14, 1983, with the story that Arthur Tyler knew a vendor they could rob on 66th. Head claimed it was Tyler's idea to rob Mr. Leach, and further claimed Tyler carried a gun with him that day. Head did admit that he and Mr. Leach fought over the gun that Leach had pulled out during the robbery, and that he had shot and killed Mr. Leach during the struggle. He said his mother told him that if I was in the wrong, to go ahead and tell the police. Leroy Head was arrested on March 14, 1983, for the murder of Mr. Leach. Arthur Tyler was arrested the next day. They were both indicted on aggravated murder and aggravated robbery on March 16, 1983. On March 24, 1983, Head gave a different version of how the murder happened. On or about March 12, 1983, I was with Arthur Tyler on the street at 68th and Russell Ave. Arthur and I had a check that we had gotten from Tony Gillis, and we were going to cash it at a store at 66th and Zoder Ave. The check was for $30. It was made out to Scott Hill. Arthur and I were to cash the check and split the $30 with Tony Gillis. We, Arthur and I, went to the store, and they would not cash the check. I went outside. Arthur Tyler was still in the store. I saw the old man with the vegetable truck in the parking lot alongside of the store. I saw the man get out of the driver's side of the truck and go in the back of the truck. I jumped in the back of the truck and robbed him, and he turned on me and pulled a gun from his left waistband with his right hand. I grabbed for it, and it went off. The old man fell back, and I fell on top of him. The gun went off again. At this time, I ran out of the truck and went to Tony Gillis's house next to Field at 68th and Russell. During all of this time, Arthur Tyler didn't know what I was doing to the old man. We didn't plan to rob the old man. I thought of it while I was waiting for Arthur to come out of the store. When you asked me where Arthur was during all of this time, all I can say is that Arthur was in the store and didn't know anything about what I was doing with the old man. When I ran away, Arthur was still in the store. 2 days later, I saw Arthur, and he gave me $10 from cashing the check we got from Gillis. We did not talk about the old man in the vegetable truck. I don't think he knew that I was the guy involved in the shooting of the old man. I think Tony Gillis fingered both of us for this shooting. Arthur Tyler had nothing to do with this. On May 18, 1983, after meeting with the assistant county prosecutor, Anthony Gillis confirmed that Leroy Head did ask him to keep the gun that Head had used to kill Mr. Leach. Anthony Gillis took the gun to get rid of it and later sold it for $40. In May 1983, just before Head went to trial, the prosecutor offered him a deal that if he pled guilty and if he testified against Arthur Tyler, he would be spared the death penalty and sentenced to life imprisonment with the chance of parole. Head, in return for this deal, then gave another statement, this time implicating Arthur Tyler as the shooter, while Head stood outside of the van. On June 3, 1983, Head pled guilty to aggravated murder and aggravated robbery of Mr. Leach and was sentenced to life imprisonment with parole after only 20 years, 7 to 25 years for the robbery and 3 years for a gun specification. In July of 1983, Head testified at Arthur Tyler's trial. Based in large part on Head's testimony, Arthur Tyler was convicted of the murder of Mr. Leach and sentenced to death in 1983. That first trial was reversed by the appellate court. Arthur Tyler was tried again in 1985. When Head was called to testify at the second trial, Leroy Head admitted to giving the statements on March 14, 1983, and March 24, 1983, in both of which he admitted to being the killer. When the prosecutor questioned him about the third statement, which he had given in return for his plea, and in which he had accused Arthur Tyler of killing the vendor, Head refused to testify. A recess was called. In the judge's chambers, the trial judge noted that it was clear Head was not going to implicate Arthur Tyler this time. Presumably he testified at the first trial. He indeed testified in the first trial that your client was involved in the case. Now, presumably, he's going to say that he wasn't. It appears now that he is at least, the witness felt that the prosecutor was going to ask him whether or not indeed the defendant was involved in this, and he's saying no. It appears that at least the witness feels that the first two statements he made, that he obviated the responsibility of the defendant. He said, I did it, not the defendant. Now on the third statement, apparently we haven't gotten to that yet. But apparently he has inculpated the defendant. He apparently doesn't want to inculpate the defendant in this trial. But the morning after the evening recess, Head was called to the stand again. This time he did testify that Arthur Tyler shot and killed Sander Leach while Head stood outside the van and watched. Head also testified that Arthur had searched Mr. Leach's pockets in search for any money he might have had in his possession. The prosecutors argued to the jury that when Mr. Leach's body was discovered, he had no money on his person. In fact, this was a false statement based upon the March 12, 1983 police report that indicated Mr. Leach had $91 in food stamps, $9.78 in change, and $54 in cash on his person. Based upon Leroy Head's testimony, Arthur Tyler was convicted and sentenced to death. Less than 2 months later, in February 1986, the prosecutor agreed to drop the mandatory sentence for Leroy Head's gun specification, effectively reducing his life sentence by an additional 3 years. 8 years later, while serving time, Leroy Head provided Tyler's post-conviction attorneys with an affidavit wherein he explained what really happened during the recess of the 1985 trial after refusing to testify against Arthur. He detailed what prompted him to change his testimony the following morning. On December 2, 1985, the first day I was called to testify in Arthur Tyler's 1985 trial, I testified that I did not have anything to say about Mr. Tyler's involvement. After I refused to testify, the trial was recessed for the day. During this recess, Prosecutor Gerstenschlager threatened me that if I did not testify against Arthur, as I did in the 1983 trial, he would cancel the plea bargain, prosecute me again, and seek the death penalty against me. He also told me not to mention his threat when I took the stand the following day. The prosecutor also offered to send me to a less secure facility if I testified and to shorten my time. The following day, December 3, 1983, I did testify against Tyler so that the prosecutor would not seek the death penalty against me. Head did serve 25 years in prison for aggravated murder. He was released on parole in June 2008. Head is now back in Cleveland, walking around as a free man, while Arthur Tyler is scheduled to be executed May 28, 2014. Since Arthur Tyler's trials, Head has made several statements to several people, including an affidavit in which he has recanted his testimony that Arthur was the shooter, in which he has admitted sole responsibility for the murder of Mr. Leach. For example, during the summer of 1983, after Head testified against Arthur at the first trial, he told Sammy Rogers that he killed Mr. Leach while Arthur was inside a nearby store trying to cash a check. In December 1985, while in the Cuyahoga County Jail, Head told Alfred Morales that he killed Mr. Leach and not Arthur. He also told Mr. Morales that he'd been threatened with the death penalty by the prosecutor if he did not testify against Arthur. Then, back at Lucasville, after the 1985 trial, Head told Romel Broom the same thing. In April 1986, Leroy Head signed a written statement consistent with his second statement that he alone attempted to rob and indeed shot Mr. Leach while Arthur was inside the meat market trying to cash a check. In May 1989, attorneys for Arthur Tyler, Richard Vickers, and Joanne Bohr-Stokes spoke with Leroy Head. He admitted to them that he was the shooter and not Arthur Tyler. In July 1991, Leroy Head signed the previously referenced affidavit stating that he killed Mr. Leach during a struggle and that Arthur Tyler was not in the van at the time. Head was not going to testify against Arthur at the second trial, but the prosecutor threatened Head with the death penalty if he did not testify against Arthur Tyler. In April 1993, Head told Gregory Jones that he killed Sander Leach. Head said he testified against Arthur Tyler because he had a chance to make a deal, and he took it. In January 2010, Kevin Bell, an individual who assists ex-inmates with obtaining employment, saw Leroy Head at the bus stop. Head, who is now a free man, having been released from prison, talked about the Tyler case. Head, referring to his refusal to testify at the second trial, said he tried to do the best he could to right the wrong, to prove that Arthur had nothing to do with Mr. Leach's murder. The murder of Sander Leach was a senseless tragedy. Executing Arthur Tyler, though, is also a tragedy, given the grave doubt about his guilt. It is abundantly clear that Leroy Head shot and killed Mr. Leach. Over the years, Arthur Tyler's attorneys sought a hearing where Leroy Head could testify truthfully, under oath, that he alone shot and killed Mr. Leach, and that he had testified falsely in the past against Arthur. During federal habeas proceedings, they were allowed to depose him under oath, but the county prosecutor at the time would not grant Head immunity from further prosecution, and as a result, had refused to answer any questions during the deposition, asserting his Fifth Amendment right to remain silent. Arthur Tyler has served over 30 years on death row for a murder he did not commit. The reliance by the state of Ohio on such selective credibility of Leroy Head, the only eyewitness against Arthur Tyler, should be greatly questioned and scrutinized. Arthur Tyler now faces execution on May 28, 2014. Injustice on the East Side needs to end now by stopping the execution of Arthur Tyler.
Thank you again for joining us tonight, and welcome Arthur Tyler and Vicky Wernicke. I want to dive right into our conversation tonight. Arthur, that video was played before the Ohio Parole Board during the clemency proceedings, as we noted in 2014. But Arthur, what else would you like us to know about you, about your upbringing, about, who was Arthur Tyler in 1983? Do you want to tell us a little bit more about you?
Mm, in general, I was a typical guy. I mean, I did things. Like they mentioned, I went to college. I graduated high school. I worked a few jobs. Couldn't seem to get over the hump, I guess. And then 1983 came.
Mhm. Yeah.
1983
Um,
changed everything.
Yeah, it sure did. And Vicky, I want to turn to you to see, t take us inside. Clearly, the video explains what occurred, but can you talk to us a little bit about where the prosecutors got this case wrong? I mean, they didn't know in 1983. Well, they knew some things in 1983. But the picture of Arthur's innocence came much later through the various proceedings. But can you talk to us about how and where this case really went off the rails?
Yes. So I was one of the attorneys at the Federal Public Defender's Office in the Capital Habeas Unit, and we were appointed to represent Arthur in clemency proceedings and any in-stage litigation in like 2013. His habeas attorney was ill-equipped to handle the intricacies of doing a clemency. So we dived in and got to know his case. There are the major issues in Arthur's case are obviously the various statements of Leroy Head, but there's also the withholding of exculpatory evidence by the police and by the prosecution. So when you say there's things the prosecution didn't know, there's a lot the prosecution did know, and they withheld it from Arthur's defense attorneys, even after two trials. The one major one was that the victim actually did have money in his pocket. It was not a robbery. And that there were statements by the Gillis brothers that Leroy Head had admitted to them that he alone murdered Mr. Leach. So there were already facts there that demonstrated Arthur's innocence. That if an attorney who was fully aware of what was going on and fully knew how to represent someone in a capital case would have been able to present to the jury and probably even get the case dismissed beforehand. Then over the years, our Leroy Head made various statements to lots of different people. Some were, notarized, some were affidavits, some were to friends that had no reason to lie. And In total, there were like 10 statements where he admitted he was the killer and Arthur was not. And when the prosecution was presented with the opportunity to give Leroy immunity from testifying, and the immunity would be that he lied, they refused to give him immunity. Arthur or Leroy was already in prison at the time when that opportunity came, and the prosecutor, the Cuyahoga County prosecutor at the time, refused to give Leroy Head immunity so he could tell the truth. And of course, the Leroy Head's attorney at the time advised him not to say anything. So he just pled the fifth and refused to testify or say anything. The system failed Arthur Tyler tremendously. It also failed Leroy Leach and Mr. Leach and his family, because the real person that was responsible for this was not held to full accountability. And that's what makes this a wrongful conviction.
Mhm. Arthur, I want to come back to you. Can you talk about, I mean, we're fast forwarding, um, but rewinding to 2013, 2014. I mean, the environment at that point in time was that Ohio was executing. It was with some regularity. But can you talk to us about what it was like to be so close to an imminent execution date for something that you didn't do? What was your sense of what was going to happen?
Honestly, I never worried about dying on death row because I knew my faith was strong and I knew I was innocent. And every book I ever read, being law books, said that these people had no right to kill me. They could have a couple of times. One moment I sat there for 11 years without appeals. My appeals were final. I didn't know what to do. I just stuck with my faith and all the people that was behind me. And I never really worried about being executed. Was I going to die there? Well, we die all the time. But I didn't never thought I would be executed. I mean, how could they execute me for something I didn't do? Something that they knew I didn't do. It wasn't like it was a guessing game. Who did what? They knew from the very beginning everything that happened. And they still went after me. And I know it was because of a lot of my arrogance of thinking that they couldn't do this to me. You know, sometimes we be naive like that. But I never thought that I would have been put through this for Mr. Leach's murder, especially when I wasn't the one that killed him. But I never worried about being executed.
One of the things that I think, looking back, which changed, one of the many things that changed in Cuyahoga County, not long before 2013, was there was a new prosecutor, right, that was elected. And Vicky, can you talk a little bit about what happened there and the remarkable nature of the clemency hearing? Because I think that that's important to understand. With Arthur's talking about, they knew that he didn't do this, and
Right.
so what happened with the prosecutor there?
So yes, there was a major change in prosecutor. The prosecutor who had been the elected prosecutor when Arthur was first tried both times was found to have committed Brady violations several times. And it was clear that he had no qualms for violating a defendant's rights. And then Judge McGinty won election as the prosecutor. And his attitude towards death penalty cases changed pretty dramatically. He had started the conviction integrity unit and was actually um, looking at the cases a lot closer and looking at them and the history of the cases, especially cases like Arthur's, where there was history of constitutional violations. So because McGinty had announced publicly that he was starting this integration unit, we had actually presented to him to the integrity in conviction integrity unit a packet about Arthur's case long before the clemency hearing about our investigation that was still ongoing about why his case was worthy of no execution. And we were still trying to get into court to litigate so that the courts would do the right thing. When it came time for the actual clemency hearing, we never heard from the integrity unit. They never responded to us. But then when they filed their packet after we had filed ours, we noticed for the first time that they said they were joining the request for clemency, but they were asking for life without parole. We were arguing Arthur should get life with parole and ordered to be released immediately. That was our big ask. But still, the fact that the prosecutor was joining our request for clemency was huge.
Yeah, I don't know that that had occurred prior to Arthur's case. Arthur, when you learned about that particular component, how did you feel about all of a sudden the same prosecutor's office that said, we're going to execute you, was then saying we now think that you should be granted clemency. How did that feel?
They weren't. I don't want to make it seem like I'm bitter and say bad things about what happened in the past. But them people let me down. They know they let me down. And trying to fix it by getting me life without parole was not going to fix it. So my team continued to fight. They didn't do me no justice. They didn't give me no help.
You're
My
talking about the
team did.
prosecutors, right?
The prosecutor's office. They never gave me any help. They never listened to no story. It was a question that, and I want to really put an answer to that because I know now, in hindsight, why that man went after me like he did. Because I was arrogant. I was always thinking, how can they convict me of something I didn't do? And that's the dumbest thing I ever did in my life. Because it cost me 42 years.
Mhm.
And if you think life without parole is better than death, you got that all wrong. You got to face death row to know that that's not a true statement, whoever asked the question. Because I'd
So,
rather be dead than be on death row right now.
yeah, Arthur, procedurally, what happened in 2014 was, as Vicky had noted, the prosecutor changed its position on clemency. Right before, they were saying no, no, he should be executed, and then in 2014 they said no, he should be commuted, largely because there was a different prosecutor who had a different attitude towards these types of cases. Um, but the parole board unanimously agreed that two different things happened there, right? And I think it's important to understand how we went from 2014 to 2025. The recommendation that the parole board made was split, right? There was a portion of the parole board members who agreed with your lawyers that said he should be freed immediately. And then there was another portion of the parole board members that said that you should have to serve 3 more years and then be freed. But Governor Kasich didn't do either of those things, right? What did Governor Kasich do?
it was funny. We all got a chuckle out of it because
Well,
even if everything was said and done, that man still gave me life without parole. It
so I
came out
will,
of his mouth.
if I could add, so the day that the report from the parole board came down, I was visiting I went to uh, the prison to visit Arthur along with one of the paralegals in our office. And we were just checking in with him, going to tell him more details about the clemency hearing. It hadn't even been a week since the clemency hearing. And we were in visiting with him. And all of a sudden, the guard said, "The warden is coming to visit Arthur. You need to step out of the room." And at first I was pissed. It's like, what do you mean he's coming to? And we thought it was going to be about the lethal injection litigation because the timeline of when they had to tell him stuff. And I was pissed. And so I was calling the office. And well, then all of a sudden, while I was on the phone with the office, Sarah, our paralegal, was watching at the door, and the warden gave Arthur a hug. And then we realized something happened, and the warden had come to tell Arthur the parole board had recommended he get life. It was unanimous that he should get life with parole, and that part of the board said he should be released immediately. And the warden said, "What, Arthur?"
You going home?
And we were all crying. It was amazing. And so on the way home, we ended up ending our meeting, our visit with Arthur, and we headed back to the office because, it was exciting. And then the next day, I remember because it was April 29th, we visited Arthur. April 30th, like at 5:45 p.m., if I remember correctly, I was in my office and I got the call from the governor's office saying that the governor had commuted him to life without parole. And I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach.
Even
Yeah.
even even the news, the guy who was doing the interview got a
Yeah.
chuckle out of it because everybody knowing that, I'm about to come home.
Mhm.
Mm.
After all this time, I'm gonna finally, and it wasn't even exoneration. It was just I was finally coming home.
Right.
And he just like you said, you talking about a punch in the stomach. That was the punch.
Mhm.
Fortunately, I was able to talk to Arthur on the phone before he got moved to the prison across the street from Chillicothe because he was understandably upset. And I was able to talk to him and remind him that we're still going to fight for him and that I would be down to see him as soon as I could. But we were all we were glad he wasn't going to be executed. Don't get me wrong, but we were very disappointed that the governor did life without parole. But then, so we had to wait 2 years to ask the parole board again for clemency for Arthur. And even though my representation had officially ended at the office, because once the death sentence was done, the federal public defender's office couldn't. But the Ohio public defender's office, especially Kathy Sanford, really, she had been his post-conviction lawyer and had done a fantastic job. And circumstances beyond her control made it impossible for her to get relief in state court like she should have. But she stayed on Arthur's case as one of his official lawyers, and I helped in the background. And we were able to file another clemency petition 2 years later, asking for him to be again recommend for life with parole and immediate release. The parole board again recommended life with parole. This time, Governor Kasich granted it and gave him life with parole. And then Arthur came up for parole, like, was it 3 times, Arthur? 3 or 4 times
In
before you finally got
10 years.
paroled.
10 years.
So it was an extra 10 years, which was a rough 10 years, but it was, you know, we're just glad he's alive and he's out.
So, January of 2025, just about a year ago and last week, I think,
January
right?
6th.
January 6th, yeah. Arthur, January 6th, 2025, you are freed. Can you talk to us about that day, the first couple things you did? I mean, what was it like to finally be free for something that you didn't do?
Mm. You say, finally be free. Am I really free? Right now, I'm sitting at home in my sister's dining room. Am I free? No. I never got exonerated. This is going to be on my name and my family name for the rest of my life. Ain't nothing free about what this is right now. Do I want to be free one day? Of course. The things I did, I allowed myself to get sicker than they made me before I came out of prison. That's what I did for that year. Now I'm struggling, trying to get around. Can't do much. I appreciate you letting me do this tonight because it's about time for people to hear my story. A lot of people have a lot of ideas about what happened and what didn't happen, but only God and the people involved know. And I know I'm mentioning God a lot because my faith had to be strong to get through that.
Amen.
The people behind me, I wish I could name y'all all. Everybody know who they are. You, Mr. Warner, giving me a chance. Okay, maybe I can be free. One day. But not as long as I'm sitting out
Sorry.
here labeled as a murderer
Yep.
for the rest of my life until they fix this. And it probably won't ever get fixed because I'm not the first person or the last person. This is going to continue to happen unless people step up. I got friends in jail right now. One brother, Freddie McNeil, grew up with him on death row. He's still there for something he didn't do. I can mention a few other guys, but I know I shouldn't. They need help. Everybody helping those of us who got out, and I greatly appreciate it. Let me tell my story. Let people hear it so people can help, because that's the only way this going to change. And I will not be the last. Already they probably got somebody in my place. And that's why I'm here today, to tell my story and hopefully speak out where they can get rid of this death penalty, not just in Ohio, but everywhere.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah. Vicky, please. Yeah.
So after Arthur was granted, Governor DeWine took office and he was making the statements that, he hasn't allowed any executions. Several years ago, Kathy and I submitted to the governor's office a petition for pardon. We submitted to the parole board, we submitted to the governor, and the parole board recommended that yes, he be given a pardon. The governor has not ruled on it yet. And this was before his reelection, I think. I really hope and pray that Governor DeWine grants Arthur the pardon before he leaves office. That would be the just thing to do. It is still pending. We got to meet with his general counsel several years ago. That would be justice for Arthur.
We we talked you talked actually about Arthur, this being on your name, right? Until or unless a pardon is granted by Governor DeWine. Um, but can we talk just a little bit about well, not that we talk, but there are, as a result of the technicalities and the way that your case concluded, um, For example, you don't necessarily have an avenue to pursue a claim for wrongful imprisonment or wrongful conviction and
Right.
seeking damages, right? That's part of the way that the technicalities and how things progress. But one of the things that I wanted to ask my colleagues to do is to put in the chat. There's a GoFundMe for Arthur that would sort of help tremendously. So if folks have the ability to contribute to that, we would certainly encourage folks to do that. It's the very least I think that we can do as a community of people that do recognize, yes, you were wrongfully convicted. Yes, you didn't commit the offense for which you spent 42 years in prison. And although I don't have any power to apologize on behalf of the state of Ohio, I apologize as a citizen of Ohio for what happened to you and in your case. So I would encourage folks to give and to give generously if you're able. I want to, before we turn it over to some questions that folks in the audience are going to have that I'll read. Vicky, Arthur, is there anything else that you'd like to say about the case before we start to go into the question portion?
Um,
I just saw a question
well, he's
from
going to
Mike
get to the
Jones.
questions in a minute, buddy.
No,
He's going to
I
get
know,
to
but from Mike Jones, and he
oh,
made a lot of sense too about making this out of a campaign, about pushing the governor to do the right thing before he leave office.
yes.
Mhm.
That's what I would want. That's my question. Why can't we do that also? Why can't we help the brothers that's left on death row that need help that can't get help? Why
Yeah.
can't we start doing those things instead
Yep.
of just procrastinating and talking about it? We need to put some power behind it.
Yep.
I've got brothers that I grew up with over 30 years, still on death row waiting for help.
Yep.
That's what I was like.
I agree. I agree. Yeah.
So are we ready for some questions from the audience? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, First question that I see, why was the prosecution so committed to convicting Arthur when they had a confession from someone else?
Can I answer that one?
Uh, yeah.
When I was a young dude, people used to tell me, "Oh, you a charmer, or you this, you arrogant." I was very arrogant with that man because I
Which
just knew
man?
he couldn't convict me. I knew I didn't do this murder. No way you can convict me, but I'm not thinking of the long term of what we studied in history. I'm thinking it's me. I ain't you can't convict me. He showed me better. That's how I got convicted. Not because of any evidence, not because I did nothing wrong. This little
Yeah.
black arrogant boy. That's what he looked at me like. And he told me, and told me out his mouth, I'm gonna get you.
Yeah. I think that fact that Leroy was only 18 and they felt that he was that Arthur was because he was older and because Arthur was, as his sister told me, he was a punk ass kid at the time, that it would be easier to get the death penalty for Arthur than probably for Leroy. Even though Arthur didn't have a criminal history, the crime wasn't especially heinous. But I think it was when there's two young black men and Arthur was the one that the prosecution felt was easy for them. And I will add, the jury was all white, except for one African American woman who was an alternate who never sat on the jury.
There's another question that's come into the chat.
that what's been the best part of being out of prison?
See,
Having a party.
people, no, people got a definition a different definition of what being out of prison means. I know I'm home, but even if you live 30 years in the house, little part of you gonna always stay there and be there. I'm not free yet. There's nothing. I want to go on an airplane. I can't. Well, I can, but I can't. I can fly around Ohio. But if I want to go somewhere else, I have to go through the process of the paperwork, the doing this, the knowing who I am, and asking them permission to go somewhere where they should be allowing me to go anyway. There are a lot of things I want to do, but the first thing I got to do is free me.
Yep.
Yeah. Go ahead, Vicky.
Oh, I was just gonna say, the best part of Arthur being out of prison is the fact that I could hug him without him being in shackles, and I could take him out to eat. And there was a party for him a month after he got out, and I flew back to Cleveland for that. But I know that it's been a struggle for Arthur to get back into society and get back into uh, and his health has not been good since he's been out because of the way that the prison mistreated him over the years.
There's another question in the chat about any disciplinary action. Was there any disciplinary action taken against the trial prosecutor?
Yeah, you got to slap on it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Back right before when they when they kind of flipped the script, he had a trial, and the judge gave him a pat on the hand for something he used against me to convict me, but used to help somebody else get out of prison. And he had a disciplinary. There is a disciplinary report. There is one. I read it, but
Yeah.
not for me, not for my case, but.
But for another
Yeah,
person that got
but
convicted for
they got
misconduct,
convicted.
and
Yeah,
all they did was slap him on the wrist that
slap him on the wrist. That's all
don't
the
do that
judge did.
again. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Another question is about why is your travel restricted?
That's parole. You can't leave the skirts of Ohio. You can ask permission, and they'll go through like I said, the paperwork. If you want to go somewhere, they'll allow you to ask for it. They might give it to you. Right now, I did pretty good, I guess, because my parole officer came to see me today. And he told me after my first year evaluation, he only has to see me once a month now instead of 3 times a month. So that was something good. And I asked him then about travel. So I probably can travel. I just had to get permission.
And
Like
for how
Arthur.
long?
Oh,
Say again.
For how long is the
Oh,
is the
oh.
parole restriction?
It could end in 5 years, but it was, I think, 10-year restricted. So if I do good, I can get off at 5.
yep.
Couple more questions here. Let me see if I can get separate them out. Oh, Arthur, there's would would like your email address. I'm not above putting that out there, but I would I'll try to connect you with the person who's asking for your email address.
You know what? It wouldn't, would it matter who had my email address? It's up to me to participate, right?
Sure.
I don't mind my email being out there. I want to touch as many people as I can.
Sure. I'm going to type it in the chat if I can spell.
ArthurUnbroken@gmail.com.
That's a great email address, Arthur.
Yeah, Heather thought of that one. Hey, Miss Heather, if you there.
Arthur, there's another question. How do you make ends meet? Do you have income?
I got what they call that, Social Security welfare. I got Humana Medicaid that don't work. What else the prison give me? Because they didn't give me no help. I know this is a different story, but they sent me out of there with nothing, basically. And they left me
Nothing and a
feeding
messed up
myself.
foot. They sent you
Yeah.
out with nothing and a messed up foot, right?
They burnt my foot off. They burnt my foot off before I left prison. And right now, I did have I guess it was a job through this
Oh,
little
yes.
academy that Trump closed down back in July. And when they opened it up back in January, I couldn't go back to work. So basically, I live on one of those Social Security welfare checks.
Mhm. Arthur, there's a question about could you say more about your the injury, your foot? What I don't know that folks understand what that means.
I popped a toenail one day in prison. The nurse sent me to see the doctor. The doctor told her to soak my foot. Whatever chemical she used that they never found out burnt my foot down to the bone and the tendons. From
On
that
the
point on, I've been
bottom,
having all kind of operations.
and it was just on the bottom. So your foot didn't get
No,
burned
just my toes.
off.
No, just my
It,
toes. Just my
yeah,
toes.
it was just severely injured.
Where I was soaking the broke off toenail. All that
And
burnt off.
and how many of the toes have you lost on that foot now?
All 5 of them.
Okay.
Mm.
So
I
when you
can't.
talk about, whether or not Arthur can get any compensation, he can't get any compensation for the wrongful conviction, even if he gets pardoned. He can't get any, the state statute that allows compensation for someone who's been wrongly convicted, but he also can't get any compensation for the medical malpractice they did on him. So, yeah, he's been in the hospital a lot over the last year.
I just saw a question. Yeah, the in and out of the hospital was the worst part of it all.
Mm.
I, I, it wasn't just the prison. The prison started it, but it didn't end with the prison. And I know I ain't supposed to speak out of turn or talk about big institutions,
It's
but
okay.
people hurt me and they hurt me bad. And the funny thing is, they let me document every bit of it on my phone.
You're talking about when you were in the hospital, right?
Yeah. But my lawyer come back and tell me now that we can't sue hospitals. That I have to just take this in. So now I'm looking for work. If I can find work, it'll probably have to be behind the desk. But right now I'm where I am.
What was your dream, Arthur, for when you got out? What did you want to do when you got out of prison?
I wanted to fly.
What
It
did
was
you want to
another
do for
thing.
work?
Or for work.
Yeah.
I want to do this. This is what I always wanted to do. I wanted to do this from prison because because I've studied law the way I did in prison. I learned a lot of things about people cases, about why convictions are not overturned, or who has to file certain things to make sure you even looked at. And I always wanted to help people. That's all I ever wanted to do. When I graduated high school, I wanted to be a lawyer for different reasons than other lawyers, but I wanted to be a lawyer. I liked the way they dressed. That was so funny. I liked the way lawyers dress. That's why I wanted to be a lawyer. Then my whole life got interrupted.
What degree did you get when you were after you got off death row?
Well, I'm a certified paralegal. I'm also a certified janitorial. I'm a certified janitor. A lot of things I did after I came off death row that they wouldn't let us do while I was on
Right.
death row.
Right.
That's how I got into computers. But I just wanted to be. I wanted to live my life. I just wanted my life back.
There's another question about I scrolled right past it about sorry, bear with me here. Um, to do with what is the next strategy now that you are free?
I wanna, Kevin, I just want to live my rest of my life out. I don't have no plans for nothing really. I want to do this. I want to travel. I want to sleep a lot. I want to get my energy back so I can eat again. I still haven't had a lemon donut. I've been asking for a lemon donut for a year, and nobody can seem to find a lemon donut.
I'm
A
gonna
lot
start
of things I
looking.
want to do. Am I going to be able to? Yes, hopefully. Will the people around me continue to support me? Yes, they will. These are true friends for life. And now I
Yeah,
hope I got an audience who don't mind hearing me because I'm going to talk and I'm going to tell on them and I'm going to let you know how bad it is there. Whatever you want to know.
Preach it.
Nobody should be on death row.
Yeah.
Who's
I
that
have a
said, let
question.
them know. Somebody got a lemon
Yeah,
donut for me. Somebody got a lemon donut for me.
I, I I have a question for you that just a little personal indulgence. I just from being um working with Vicky at that time in 2014 and getting to know there was a whole community of people that were pulling for you and that even had come to the parole board and said, you know, if Arthur's released, he can come and live with us, right? I mean, there are
Yeah.
families
Yeah.
and there are lots of folks around Cleveland who are
Strangers,
supporters.
not just friends,
Yeah,
strangers.
yeah. Can you
That
talk about
amazed
some of,
me.
yeah,
My two best friends, well, three, I got three actually, who've been around almost the same. Heather Logley, Christine, and Ian Heisley. Though that's where there's another person, but she passed away long ago. Miss Wendy Alsford, who actually started my campaign on her computer and opened this door to so I could touch outside of prison. Because that's what they can't do. You can't touch outside of prison much. Some of the groups that come there, they come there, but there's not a lot of support for them guys on death row right now.
yeah,
Actually in prison, but people got family members and all that, but death row is way different from anything you know. And if you're not getting no support on death row, I know nobody had support like I had. I had the grandest support I could ever ask for and pray for. And everybody is still there right now. Everybody is trying to do this and do that, trying to get me back on my feet. I'm dragging around on a walker right now. Not to mention my downfalls, because I'm not coming to you with no sob story. I just want to come tell you what really was. You hear it right from a man who did 42 years in the desert. This has to change. People got to help. The new generation coming in, they got to be better. Well, this world ain't gonna never change.
Arthur, there's another question about, has anyone connected you with Alfred Cleveland and Voices of Injustice?
I know Alfred Cleveland prison. We spent a year together. I was with him when he got out. I know just about everybody who got out because mainly I was on the end of their stories. Everybody need help in prison. I just was lucky with law.
I guess my question, Alfred, I mean Arthur, was have you? This is Mike Jones.
Hi, Mike.
Um,
How you doing?
fine. So I was asking because, they just did the play, uh, The Lynched Among Us, and they really trying to help people get exonerated, and so I think it'd be worthwhile for you to be able to have a conversation with them,
Oh yeah,
since you've been home.
he's
Um,
on my Facebook. He's on my Facebook.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's good seeing you.
Yeah, thank you.
Kevin, can I say something kind of wrapping up? Arthur was one of those clients that I represented death row inmates for over 30 years in Oklahoma and in Ohio. He was one of those rare clients who did not have a mental health disease, was intelligent, had some common sense. He did have some uh, anger issues, but he had a right to be angry because he was wrongly convicted. And I think that's one of the things that helped Arthur survive, and it's going to help him survive out of prison and hopefully be feel like he's completely free someday.
Arthur, before we wrap up, is there anything more that you want to share tonight, or anything else to say?
I want to thank you for this opportunity because I was wondering where y'all were at because I've been on death row 10 years. I'm saying, well, hello, I'm here. I'm right here. And I always wanted to tell my story legitimately. No games, no written scripted book, none of that.
Mhm.
My story can help because if it can happen to me, it can happen to anybody. I used to look at myself as nobody. Oh, just another guy on death row. No, I wasn't going out like that. I thank everybody who came tonight, who listened, and I appreciate any help, but mainly reach into death row. Find out what's there. Find out who you might can talk to who will hold a great conversation. They need help like that. If you just sit, I remember sitting every day, counting minutes, days, hours, for 31 years. Guess that's how I didn't go crazy. I stayed hopeful. I kept my faith strong. And I got a bunch of loving friends who I love to death right now. And I thank all of y'all for getting me here. Now I can tell the script. Now I can flip the script. I can tell my story.
Yep.
Knew nothing about this platform. Now I'm here. So bear with me. And I thank y'all for letting me be here.
Arthur, how you doing? This is Ronald Crosby. I just wanted to tell you,
Go ahead. You cut off. You cut off.
Arthur's sister Francine has been one of his biggest supporters and biggest anchors back to the real world too. Right?
Who was the question from? They cut off before they got a chance to do it.
I think he was just saying hi, but I didn't
Oh,
catch the name.
okay.
oh
I
yeah,
think it was
Arthur,
Ron.
I was just saying
Go ahead.
hello. Welcome to
Hello.
the world. make sure you get that travel permit. Don't let that travel permit stop you because it ain't nothing but them signing the paper, and then you just telling them where you're going, which hotel and which states you're going to, and once you get there, you just get it signed and get back on the plane or get back on the bus and get
And
back.
going
But
back.
don't buy yourself for that. Go on and get that travel in.
Oh, I'm gonna try, man. I'm gonna try my best this year.
You got
'Cause I
your
didn't do
year in.
nothing
That's
last year.
whatever wherever you want to go, fly to, or whatever. Just ask for that travel permit. All they gonna do is have the board get it for you, and then you on that plane.
Oh,
And
okay,
let me know.
perfect.
I'll fly
Yeah,
with you.
I didn't know that. Okay, perfect.
Yes. And you got any questions? I mean, I'll throw my number in the chat, but if you got any questions, I'm here. I'm here. That's what I do all day, every day. Kurt tell you. We fight that
All
good
right.
fight.
Thank you. Thank you.
Happy New Year's too, and welcome home.
Happy New Year.
Well, I want to thank everybody for joining us tonight, especially Arthur and Vicky. I think that one of the things that I'll talk with my staff about is um, a formal sort of work to ask the governor to grant you the pardon that you deserve. I feel like that maybe is the least that we can do. But I'm just grateful that, the community of people around you have opened their arms and made sure that, when you came home, that you've got a strong community of people around you. It doesn't mean that, the work is done or that, everybody can just, move on to other things. Um, but I think that we're all, grateful that you and Vicky spent some time with us tonight, and shared your story. And we'll do it again and again and again. So thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Yes,
Um,
sir.
Thank you for
and
asking.
and yeah, just a real quick final word from me. Most folks may know that Governor DeWine is planning on making an announcement about the death penalty sometime this month in January. And so we're keeping an eye out for that. When that does occur, I'm sure that we'll be reading about it on the papers, but online, and there'll be lots of stories about that. But it's a great time to be reaching out to your elected officials about the death penalty, and it's a great time to be writing to the governor about maybe that handwritten letters urging him to pardon Arthur Tyler, in
I
addition
would like,
to whatever. Mhm.
I would actually like to meet him. I would actually like to have a conversation with him somewhere in this time. This is last hurrah, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
this
You
is
don't
his
get back
last
in
year.
anymore. I want to do this year. I want to do it. That's what I want to do. I
All
want to
right. We'll
get in
put it
his
on the
ear
list.
while he thinking what he thinking. I want to get in his ear if we can make that possible.
All right. We'll see what we can do about that, right?
Okay.
That'd be
Yeah.
Okay.
awesome.
One more thing before we go.
Yeah.
I want everybody out there to give a shout out and a prayer up for Miss Catherine Sanford.
Amen.
Because of her and Vicky and God and all my supporters, I'm sitting here. But Catherine Sanford probably had the biggest leg of this journey because
Amen
it
to
was
that.
at the time when my fruit was fresh and they were trying to eat me. And she stopped it. And Vicky came on and they swooped me up out of there. And I am so grateful. I will always be. I came home with a little bit of anger. My anger is dissipated. I can't say it's gone because I'm gonna always be a little angry. But anger used in the right way is good. You just got to know what to do with it. You got to know how to direct it. And I learned that in prison. So whenever
Yep.
you're ready to do this, however long you want to do this, whenever you want to do it, you can count on me to be there.
Thank you again, everyone, for joining
Well
us,
said.
and hope that you all have a very pleasant evening, and take some of the actions that have been posted in the chat. Yeah, certainly, we have a lot of work to do still, but I think we're moving in the right direction. So thank you all, and hope you all have a pleasant evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Kevin.
Good job, Arthur.
Thank everybody.